Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I feel like it's been so long since I've said that, so I am back from vacation. Came back a few days ago, but as you know, when you come back from vacation, it's like you're running around. Kids went back to school. I had to wash my hair. That was a whole production. So here I am. And today I just want to do a foundation roundup. I want to do like an update on, because I think I have a lot more information now on the foundations from my foundationathon. And thanks for everyone who had such nice comments on all my reviews so far. If you're new to my channel, my name is Nalini and I love complexion products. Okay, so I am going to rate these foundations from 1 to 5, and I'm going to start with number 5. And what I will say is I love them all 5 of them. But to rate them, it's almost like nitpicking. Like one barely edges the other one out because of whatever, but these are all very, very good foundations. And I'm going to start with the bottom 2, my bottom 2, but I still love these 2 foundations, but it's just that they're all so amazing. And these 2 are my bottom 2. My bottom 2 are the Anastasia foundation and the Dose of Colors. Anastasia being number 5. And the only reason this is number 5, like I said, it's like the margins are very, very small. It didn't wear as beautifully, although it wore beautifully. It looked beautiful on the skin. The others ahead of it looked even more beautiful. And what I also found with this foundation, because what I did was I already kind of figured out my top 3, and I figured those were the 3 I was going to bring with me on my cruise. And so these 2 I was wearing quite a bit before my cruise because I wanted to get more of an idea, because I already had it in my head I was going to do this type of video, and a few people asked me to actually do an update on the foundations. So I was able to wear this for a little bit to get some ideas, and this one in particular, it oxidized, and I didn't really notice that the first time that I demoed it and I reviewed it. But so you have to be a little careful with this. At least on me, it oxidized. It got quite a bit darker. I would say maybe a shade to almost a shade and a half darker on me. All of these foundations, the common denominator, I used my Fenty primer with them, and so this is the only reason I would put this at number 5. The Dose of Colors. If you looked at my review, you know how much I love this foundation, and the only reason this is number 4, like I said, just the others just edged it out just a little bit. This wore great. And like I always say when I do my reviews, when I wear foundations, I will wear my foundations all day. Like if I put it on in the morning, sometimes I wouldn't take it off until night. And this, like about maybe the 7th or 8th, kind of 9th hour, which is a long time. So it's not really a complaint, it's just an observation. It's separated a lot, like around my nose. I can see it moved a lot, like around my nose. I actually had to like powder it to like get it, like stop it from moving, which I never really do. I never really carry around powder, but with this I have to, because it'll definitely separate a little bit here. But I still love this foundation, and it's number 4 because the others ahead of it edged it out. Now, my top 3 are these 3 foundations: the Fenty, my Pat McGrath foundation, and my Charlotte Tilbury foundation. And I got a few surprises, because in my head I had them lined up 1, 2, 3, and the orders switched as I wore them. And I deliberately wanted to bring these 3 on my cruise. Now, I was on an 8-day cruise. We got delayed because of Dorian, my God, the devastation in the Bahamas. And so I was on the boat a lot indoors. So I wore the Fenty quite a bit indoors, since this is a hydrated foundation. But once we hit the islands, we hit 3 islands, I wore the Pat McGrath, and I wore this. I also wore this indoors. Now, just to give you an idea, I'm not like a sun person, so while I was on the ship, I wasn't running up on the deck a lot. I was mostly indoors under AC. The US Open was on. I'm a huge tennis fan, so I was just indoor just watching tennis, and sometimes I'll go up on the deck to eat, but I wasn't spending like a lot of time in the sun, so I was a lot in the AC. So, number 3. And I was kind of, I was a little surprised at number 3, but if I'm gonna be honest and I'm gonna rate them, number 3 ended up being my Fenty foundation. And when I reviewed this foundation, I said this was the best one. And like I said, this is not like, oh, these are so much better. It's just little, I'm nitpicking here, guys. With this foundation, I wore this indoors because I was under the AC a lot. It's very hydrating. And the only reason this dropped to number 3, I love it still, love, love, love. It dropped to number 3 because because I really got a good wear out of this foundation. I would say like about maybe the 7th or 8th hour, because even when I did my original review on this foundation, I think I reviewed it after 6 hours. I had some thoughts after because I had worn it like for longer periods. The only thing I would say about this, it just looks almost too, I don't want to say dewy, I don't want to say shiny. It almost looks like, it has like that, it still looks very natural and skin-like, but it has that like kind of like, it almost turns into like, you just put like a cream on. I don't know if that makes any sense. Like you just put a really hydrating cream on your face that has some color. So for me, why this dropped to 3, as the day went on and like I, went back to the room like about maybe the 7th or the 8th hour, it didn't look as pretty. I think that's what it is. Because originally, like initially when you put this foundation on, oh my God, because it's so beautiful and so skin-like, it looks amazing. 6th hour, it looks so good because it looks like skin. But then after a while, at least for me, there's something about it. I don't know if I'm using the right words. It just looks almost like, is there a word like too skin-like? I don't know. But it doesn't look as popping, it doesn't look as pretty. I mean, a lot of foundations probably don't as the day would go on, but this almost looks like, oh, I just have like a cream on my face. And for me, I like to, although, I mean, I don't want my face to be cakey, I would still like to say, oh, I'm wearing a little makeup, little foundation. It's almost too natural as the day go on, but it's so beautiful because I got a lot of compliments when I wore this foundation on the ship from strangers. Okay, so my number 2, so it's down to these 2, and because I thought that one was going to be number 1, and my number 2 is the Pat McGrath foundation, her Skin Fetish foundation. And originally when I did my review, I had the shade 28. A lot of people told me, because it was more on the website, oh, I don't want to be like talking too much, but after I did my last video on the Charlotte Tilbury foundation, a lot of people commented, and I never knew this, and I'm so happy that I know this. They said when, if a foundation has W beside it, like warm, it doesn't mean red. I think because I'm so used to MAC, because apparently only in MAC, W is red and C is golden or yellow. I never knew that. So when I purchased this foundation, it said cool, that means red. But I was just thinking, because I always thought all these years, I mean, my viewers are amazing. Like people were just telling me, and it makes perfect sense. So that's why that foundation, Charlotte Tilbury foundation, looked red on me, because cool means red. It doesn't mean yellow like in MAC. MAC is the only brand that does it that way. So if you're like me and you never knew this, I mean, it's a little confusing, but only in MAC, W is red and C is golden or yellow. Anyway, so I switched from, I exchanged it for the shade 26, and this is the perfect shade for me. I mean, everybody that commented that I should try 26, they were entirely right. this foundation right here, because after I reviewed this foundation, the other foundations came up so fast, I didn't get a chance to like really, you know, give it a good wear for like a whole day and stuff like that. This foundation is so bomb. Like if you bought this and you bought the others, like go back and just revisit this foundation. My goodness, this wore so amazing in heat and indoors, outdoors and indoors, because one of the stops was for Turks. It was so hot there. Like that's the hottest I've ever felt going anywhere. It was so hot, and my son wanted to go into the water, so there was not a lot of shade, and I actually wore this out. And oh my goodness, this foundation looked so beautiful, and I love the yellow in it. Love the yellow in it. I'm so blind I can't see the damn undertone, but it's probably warm, which means yellow, because it's not MAC. It wore so beautifully. Like this foundation is so good. It's not a skin-like and doesn't look as like really skin-like and just as soft skin-like like the Fenty. And mind you, like I keep saying over and over, they're just like smidgens apart, like, because they're so good. So if you have either of these foundations, maybe you found the same thing, maybe you know what I'm talking about, or maybe you don't. And so obviously the top came out to be my Charlotte Tilbury. Now I never thought it would be this, because like I said, when you wear Charlotte Tilbury, it's like you can see that you're wearing foundation. But this is what I figured out, because if you looked at my review, I was not happy with the color. I thought it was too red on me because I went with Cool, thinking like it's the same as MAC. But since I've been wearing this foundation, and I've been obsessed, I'm actually wearing it today. I love this foundation so much. What I discovered, this foundation is so full coverage and so pigmented. I put too much on when I reviewed it. When I reviewed it, I did 2.5 pumps. That was way too much foundation, and the red on the tone really came out. With this foundation, believe it or not, and I think, well, besides my Danessa Marix foundation that's super thick, this is the only foundation I could only use one pump. I swear to you guys, I use one pump with this foundation. I give it one good squeeze. Like I press down, one pump covers my entire face. And then after I'm done with my forehead, I still have a little bit left over on my beauty sponge to go, you know, and cover the areas that I feel that need more coverage. One pump of that foundation. And because I'm only using one pump, it doesn't have that like intense red, at least that I see. I don't know how it looked on camera when I reviewed it, that I was seeing the first time I did it and like the second time. So I figured that out pretty quickly. And with that one pump over my face, it also doesn't have that sort of mask-like look that I initially got when I reviewed it, because like I said, I used 2.5 pumps. That was way too much. I used 1.5 pumps more. And I've been wearing it with my Marc Jacobs Accomplice Concealer. I haven't pulled out that concealer for a while. I was just experimenting with different things because I just loved how it looked on me, that I really wanted it to work. And I was like, I'm not going to switch colors and try to get another color and all that stuff. I wanted to stick with this. And this, by the way, is 14 Cool, which is Cool red undertone. So if you're like me, you don't know, and you prefer a yellow undertone, don't select 14 Cool if you haven't purchased this foundation yet. And I've been wearing it with the Accomplice Concealer. And what I love about wearing it with the Accomplice Concealer, I don't know if you know it, I reviewed that few videos back. It's a stick concealer. It's very creamy, and this is a matte foundation. I think just putting that on, being so like creamy and blending it out with this foundation, I think it's the perfect match. So if you have dry skin and you don't really like matte foundations, maybe you've tried this foundation, it's too matte for you, because it is a matte foundation, use like products underneath or on top of the foundation that's very creamy or emollient, like stuff like that. So either you use the Fenty primer and use a concealer that's, if you have a stick concealer, because a concealer that's not like matte and like dry, something nice and creamy, and blend it out with this foundation. And I do set it. I was setting it because I was on the cruise. It was hot. Once I went outside, because I wore this outside a lot, once I went outside, I just took a little bit of my Fenty powder on my beauty blender as usual, But when I picked up the powder, I went, you know, I topped off most of it and I just pressed the rest of it into my face, especially around my T-zone, because I do have normal skin, but I do get oily in my, I've been getting a little oily in my T-zone. And I think if you're looking at me right now, like I said, I am wearing the foundation. It doesn't look matte or cakey or anything because I have the one pump, and you just see the slight warmness of that red coming through. I think it looks amazing. In my opinion, I love it. And what really put it at #1 for me of all the foundations is the way it wore throughout the day. Especially one of the stops was Dominican Republic, hot as balls. And we were out there for a while. I came back, watched tennis, do this, had dinner, whatever. And I remember coming back to the cabin and looking in the mirror, and I would say, because I put my foundation because I wanted to get to breakfast early, I would say about 8:45 in the morning. My day finished, I was back in the room, I would say around 11 something. That's like over 12 hours. And I looked in the mirror, and guys, my face looked pretty much the same, beautiful and flawless. My natural oils peeked through, mixed with the foundation, everything looked amazing. And I have just been loving this foundation. My last couple days on the ship, this is the foundation I wore. I just kept reaching for it. So if you're thinking of buying the Charlotte Tilbury foundation, go ahead. It is fantastic. And like I said, it barely edged the others out because these are all great foundations. I'm going to be wearing all of them, well, you know, throughout. But I just wanted to give you guys an idea of how they were, how I feel about them since I did that whole foundation-a-thon. And I see other foundations have come out. Somebody asked me to review the, I think Bite Beauty came up with some kind of stick foundation. I am not sure. I have foundation fatigue. I'm pretty sure you all do. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for, if you've come back to my channel, thank you so much. To all my new subscribers, thank you and welcome. I hope you stay. I missed you guys so much, and I'm going to see you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.